as they always say, if you don't have the votes, you talk. When you have the votes, you vote. So once they got enough votes, that's when they voted. And they just barely got it. They got Lisa Murkowski from Alaska. And we're still looking at the particulars of the new version of the bill, which just came out as the senators were voting on it. So the actual language was only released during the vote. But basically, Alaska gets some leeway on the Medicaid cuts that other states don't get, and that helped bring in Lisa Murkowski. And also, we've heard from Senator Ed Markey that they took out this new excise tax they were going to put on solar and wind, which Lisa Murkowski was opposed to. But basically, they've insulated Alaska a bit from some of the Medicaid cuts, and they've given a little ground on the clean energy. They were going to eliminate the clean energy tax breaks, and they gave a little ground on that.
AI fell out of the bill. This is the Cruz amendment that would have regulated or prevented states from regulating.
Essentially was going to be
things.
A ban on state regulation initially for 10 years, and then he sort of bartered down to 5 years, but in the end they just took it out.
The Collins amendment to increase funding for rural hospitals. Interesting. They got the money for the hospitals, but the millionaire tax that was going to pay for it.
Yeah, they didn't do the millionaire tax.
So that's going to make this even more expensive.
It will, but the Senate version is a lot more expensive than the House version for various reasons. But interestingly, they had that amendment on the floor and it got voted down, but then they added it back in.
People will be asking questions about how that happened, right? There was some backroom dealing that took place.
You pay the price. I mean, and that's what Trump and Thune, they paid what they had to get the votes they needed and not one vote more.
Okay, so how's this going to land in the House now? Because you've already got members of the Freedom Caucus saying that this is different than what we made a deal on, so we're already a no. How many votes can Mike Johnson lose? And is it possible they pass this in the next 24 hours?
It's possible because even though from the Freedom Caucus standpoint, it's worse than it was before in terms of, the extra debt that the country takes on. But there are deeper spending cuts for Medicaid than there were in the House. So from the Freedom Caucus standpoint, that's a plus.
Yeah.
If you're a swing state moderate, that might be a minus. And also they're going to lose one guy probably that had voted for it before, Nick Lalata from Long Island, because he said the salt deal wasn't good enough. But that said, you can bet that Donald Trump and those Republican House leaders are going to be twisting arms, breaking legs, whatever they have to do to get this done. And they'll be making promises about stuff that'll happen in the future, saying, hey, we're going to do this, we'll do that down the road for you. And they will really ratchet up the pressure because they want to get this done by July 4th. Not that it matters. You don't really need to get this done by July 4th.
But it looks like they might.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're a new president and your party is in control of Congress, you never have more power than you do coming in. And right now, Donald Trump won a bunch of victories in the Supreme Court. It's this moment to ratchet up the leverage and get it done. There's never going to be a time when he's more powerful than right now.